Now, anyone who follows me on DeviantArt will know that I absolutely adore Toon cards. I always have a soft spot for the old slapstick cartoons like Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, or even Animaniacs. And to me, Toon World and its wacky band of loopy lunatics helped give the emphasis on what made those cartoons amazing. For those unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, Toons are an archetype in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG where the main idea is that the monsters are caricatures of existing monsters with a few oddballs, like Dark Rabbit, Paradragon, Bakura Box, and Toon Alligator. Like how Blue Eyes Toon Dragon is the chibi plush for Blue Eyes White Dragon, or how Toon Barrel Dragon is the cheap Chinese bootleg of Barrel Dragon. However, there's one thing that separates them from the original counterparts, other than name and design, and that's their abilities. See, the concept from what I understand about Toon monsters is that not only are they supposed to be more superior to their original counterparts, but also faster. Like how faster American cartoons like the Animaniacs are than Japanese anime like Pokemon in terms of frames per second. Now, I know that's not entirely true, especially in the modern age, but it's the general concept. Since Yu-Gi-Oh! Was created in the 90s, and the debut of Toon Monsters in North America from the Spell Rulers pack was on September 16, 2002. And anime in 2002 wasn't exactly the fastest compared to Tiny Toon Adventures or Animaniacs from the 90s, so the concept was there. However, what made the Toon Monsters more superior than the original counterparts were that the abilities of Toon Monsters always had a bigger influence play-wise. Many Toon Monsters had abilities that correlate with the original counterparts but could affect almost every card and not just one specific card type. For example, Barrel Dragon would only target monsters, while this cute little toy pistol could destroy anything it wants. So long as you met the requirements for it, of course. And there were the Toon monsters who had abilities, while the original counterparts were normal monsters, like Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dark Magician. And then, their most cherished ability is the ability to attack your opponent directly, even if your opponent had monsters on the field. However, there were two prerequisites for achieving this. One of those was that your opponent mustn't control a Toon monster. Secondly, Toon World must be on the field under your control. And that's where a lot of problems stem from in terms of Toon decks. Now don't get me wrong, many players can play a decent Toon deck without the heavy reliance on Toon World, but that's what the Toon archetype is well known for in general, the heavy reliance on Toon World that could cripple it in competitive play. Now, many people think the adage of new Toon monsters may help, where I disagree to that notion. Now, it would be cool to see a Toon vampire lady or some kind of Toon zombie monster. I think I know what a Toon deck truly needs. To get to it, I need to explain why Toon World is such a heavy burden to most Toon decks. Originally, in its Spell Rulers debut, Toon World was a continuous spell card that only sat there after you paid 1,000 life points to activate it. That's it. Toon World was hyped to be the super amazing card that could transform regular monsters into Toon monsters. Coupled with the ability to avoid and dodge attacks, this consequently made them nearly impossible to defeat. However, when I found out that it didn't have those abilities in the actual card, admittedly I was a bit bummed, but Toon World's design drew me more to it, so I shrugged off its lack of super special awesome powers. By the time Dragons of Legend 2 was released, we get the field spell card called Toon Kingdom. This was what Toon World should have been. It didn't turn regular monsters into Toons, but it did provide quite the protection. At a cost, of course. There were ways of adding the card to your hand, like Toon Table of Contents or Toon Bookmark, but there wasn't really enough protection for the field spell card itself when it came to a Toon deck. Unless you decide to run cards like Magic Reflector or Field Barrier in the deck, the only thing you mostly had to go by was Toon Bookmark, and once it was sent to the graveyard, not many cards can bring it back. So, with the power of my head spaghetti, I created a trap card that could help Toon decks whenever they need Toon World. A trap card I like to call Toon Nightmares. Here's how it works. If you're familiar with the Haunted Shrine, then you'll see where I'm going with this. Toon Nightmares would only activate while you don't control Toon World on the field, in contrast to many Toon cards that do require it on the field to activate, but have one in your graveyard. You can activate Toon World directly from your graveyard. Then, if you don't control Toon World on the field, but in the graveyard, along with Toon Nightmares, you can banish Toon Nightmares from the graveyard to activate Toon World from the graveyard once more. When the Toons debuted in Spell Ruler, the major flaw was that if Toon World was gone, so were your Toon monsters. But by the time Toon Cyber Dragon made an appearance, Toon monsters later would no longer be destroyed if Toon World was gone, which was such a huge relief. But the main focus of the Toon deck would be lost without Toon World, which was free direct attacks. One of the Toon monsters that would be destroyed without Toon World, and is a staple in most Toon decks, is Toon Mermaid. Toon Mermaid is a level 4 Toon monster that can only be special summoned while Toon World is on the field. This made summoning monsters a lot more easier while bringing out Red Eye's Toon Dragon, or Toon Dark Magician to swarm the field with even more Toon monsters, or bringing out Toon Blackluster Soldier or Toon Barrel Dragon to cripple your opponent's strategies. However, like I said, Toon World needs to be on the field in order to use Toon Mermaid. Now, I can understand that a card like Toon Nightmares would probably cause some imbalance to the game, so it would be advised to either limit it to 1 or 2, so you don't create an unfair advantage against your opponent. But let me know what you think about my Toon Nightmares trap card, because I personally think if it's one thing Toon users really needed, it's something to bring back Toon World, or at least Toon Kingdom, from the cold clutches of the graveyard. Alright, see ya.